John Chester and Maritza Giorgio. We are just going to get on here, go over some headlines before our episode today. We have Dr. Michael Osterholm, and he's an epidemiologist who is on President Biden's COVID-19 task force. He's currently the director of the Center for Infectious Disease Research and Policy at the University of Minnesota. I know. I already hear you. But also, I wanted to mention that today is our 47th episode of Grounded. 47. Does that number mean anything to you?
Well, it's how many years I've been married. Why? Is there
Uh,
another?
well, I see a lot of people use 47 to describe our current president if they don't want to use his
Oh,
name.
well, I figured you were keeping track of my wedding anniversaries.
Well, that too.
48's coming up in about a week, so
Oh, congrats.
yeah.
Yeah, so we have a lot to talk about with our guest today. Just a few weeks ago, he wrote on social media that he hadn't seen a more dangerous decision in public health in his 50 years in the business. Of course, he was talking about the Department of Health and Human Services terminating $500 million in mRNA vaccine research funding. So that's when we booked him. That's when we reached out and said, we want to book you. But now we have so much more to ask him about because of this shakeup at the CDC.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to get his perspective on all this. I mean, I got a notion. I know what his perspective is going to be, but he's worked in the field, a different kind of field than I work in. Not a wheat field, but a field of medicine. And so it'll be interesting to get his perspective on the impacts of this. The taking away the money for research, to getting rid of people in the agency, the goofiness of RFK Jr.'s healthcare perspective, and why this is what people have to live under. I mean, what a bunch of crap. But we'll get his perspective. It'll be fun.
Yeah, so let's just go into the details, the latest at the CDC. The director was fired by the president less than a month on the job. And then she said, oh, no, I'm not leaving. And then Thursday, three other top officials were escorted out of the building after they announced that they were resigning over Secretary RFK Jr.'s policies on vaccines. Now, your former colleague, Senator Bill Cassidy, says the departures require oversight by his committee, the Help Committee. So we're going to get into a lot more about this with Dr. Osterholm, but it's a big deal. And it comes at the same time as the president trying to fire the Federal Reserve Governor, Lisa Cook. They had a 2-hour court hearing on that today with, actually no immediate ruling. There's a lot going on.
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff sliding down the hill, and none of it smells real good.
You're going to be tame today? You're going to say stuff? Wow,
shit.
I'm not.
There's a lot of shit rolling down the hill, and I don't know which turd to pick up. All right, I've used that line once before. We can use a line every day. But the truth is that one of the things that this country did really, really, really well before this administration was research. We led the world in it, and quite frankly, I guess we're giving that to China now because researchers are going to research, and if they don't do it here, they'll do it somewhere else. Then they'll create economy somewhere else, and that is a fact. And if you want to live back in the day that my grandfather lived, when there were very few, if any, vaccinations, then go ahead. But then you're going to see things like childhood mortality rate go up. You're going to see the age go down of people that they aren't going to be living in their 70s and 80s anymore. I mean, this is really, really dangerous. And maybe RFK doesn't care because he goes swimming in a cesspool with his grandkids and thinks that's okay. So his judgment isn't really the best. But for all these people that are anti-vaxxers and that don't think vaccines do any good, God damn it, read your history, man. Look at what this country was like 100 years ago. And sure, everybody wants to bring back the good old days, but I'm not sure that people realize the good old days weren't necessarily good in some cases. And when it comes to healthcare, we've made incredible advances and we're flushing that all down the toilet. It doesn't make any sense. And it's making America anything but great again.
Yeah, we will get into that with Dr. Osterholm for sure. The other big headline from today, and then we'll get into what happened in my hometown. this week. President Trump ended Secret Service protection for former Vice President Kamala Harris. Now, the White House says that vice presidents usually only get 6 months of protection after leaving office. We're finding out she had longer protection because of an executive memo that President Biden signed before he left office that extended her protection for 18 months. This isn't the first person he's taken protection away from, though.
Well, she's got to go look at John Bolton. They took protection away from John Bolton, and then he sent in the FBI to do an investigation on him. So maybe that's next for her too. Go after your political enemies. Use the Department of Justice to go after your political enemies. Don't use it for the justice system in this country. Use it for your own personal political vendetta. And for all the MAGA folks out there to listen and go, well, geez, Biden did this. Well, let me tell you something. Joe Biden didn't orchestrate an attack on the Capitol on January 6th. He didn't do that. Go back and watch the video. Go back and understand that while people were overrunning the Capitol, President Trump and his crew were having a big old party, and they could have given a shit less. They didn't call in the National Guard for that, but they will call in the National Guard to Washington, D.C. to guard the Lincoln Memorial. Because I'm going to tell you, in the 18 years I was there, I'm sure there were a lot of crimes that happened around the Lincoln Memorial. This is crazy. This is craziness up and down the line here. And yeah, I mean, where to start, where to end. Like I say, there's a lot of turds to pick up.
All right. Well, there was this horrific school shooting this week in my hometown of Minneapolis. It's reigniting the debate over how we stop this from happening, how to stop any more parents from having to take a microphone at a press conference and talk about their slain child. And this morning, House Speaker Mike Johnson, he did an interview and he said that this is not the time to politicize anything on both sides of the aisle. And he says there are common sense measures that should be done that don't involve taking away guns. And someone said to me earlier this week, Senator, if nothing happened after Sandy Hook, why would something change now?
You're right, 100%. Pretty soon they're going to come out and they're going to say stuff like, well, we need to pray for these folks, or we need to make sure there's mental health capability. Well, we can all pray for the folks, and that's all a good idea. But Doge trashed the mental health aspects of this country. And so, uh, for the speaker to stand up and say, after the speaker has done jack shit to hold this administration accountable, to say this is not the time to politicize it. We just need to make sure that we're all playing nice here. Somebody's kids got killed by an idiot with a gun. Okay, let's try to figure out how we can keep the idiots from having a gun. All right, and I know we'll never keep all the idiots from having a gun, but we ought to at least make some attempt, like background checks. It wouldn't hurt. If you can't pass a background check, maybe you shouldn't have a gun. And if you unwrongly can't pass that background check, you have appeal rights to get that gun back. That's better than shooting a kid in a school. Okay, that's it. But instead, what we'll talk about is we'll talk about mental health and we'll talk about praying for people. Okay.
I do have to tell you what Secretary RFK Jr. said about this. He suggested that antidepressants like SSRIs could be contributing to the violence. And your former colleague, Minnesota Senator Tina Smith, went after him and she said, just shut up, stop peddling bullshit. You should be fired.
And if you know Tina Smith, to have her say, stop peddling bullshit would be like to have me quit cussing. I mean, she is one of the sweetest, honest, most decent people on earth. And for her to start talking about bullshit, it is bullshit. And so get on your hip waders because it's deep bullshit. And she is right. And God, it'd be nice to have somebody competent overseeing our healthcare in this country.
There's a lot of headlines to talk about, though. We didn't even talk about Border Patrol arresting 2 firefighters while they were working a wildfire in Washington. We didn't talk about FEMA placing people on leave after signing an open letter to Congress warning about their concerns. We didn't talk about the federal government offering military funeral honors for Ashley Babbitt, who was the January 6th rioter climbing through the broken window. So there's a lot we didn't talk about. But
I
all
mean,
right.
you did everything right, Maritza. Ah,
I know.
I'm really glad I sent you that script for you to read.
Thank you. Yeah, you did so much work on it. Let's pivot now into our chat with Dr. Michael Osterholm. He's an epidemiologist and director of the Center for Infectious Disease Research and Policy at the University of Minnesota and was also on President Biden's COVID-19 task force. Thank you so much for being with us, Doc.
Thank you. It's a real honor.
Doctor, it's good to have you here. How long have you been an MD? How
Uh,
many?
act Actually, I'm not an MD, I'm a PhD.
You're a PhD.
Yeah,
Okay.
so
Well,
you
see
wanna
that
keep you
that's
wanna
what it,
keep this in that's why I never try to pretend I am an MD. That's why I
okay.
just tell people, "Call me Mike."
So how long have you been the PhD is a big deal too. How long have you had your PhD?
50 years.
50
I've been here, yeah, at the University of Minnesota for 50 years, and,
50
25 of those years I was also at the state health department.
and
So
you've
I
been
did
doing
both.
research the entire 50 years you've been doing research for the
Yeah, I have been, and, during that time, I had a number of other roles. I've, served, a role in every presidential administration since Ronald Reagan. I was involved in the earliest days of HIV/AIDS and the AIDS Commission. Throughout the years, even during the Trump 1 administration, I was a science envoy for the State Department around the world. And of course, with the Biden Harris transition team, I was part of that with COVID. So I've had a long relationship, you might say, with Washington, D.C., and all that goes on there.
So putting this perspective, since 1975, you've had some relationship with Washington, D.C. in one form or another, right?
That's correct.
Have you ever seen anything this goddamn insane in your life?
Well, I've been quoted in the media the last couple of days, if not the last week, that these are the most dangerous days I've seen for public health in my career. And specifically, some of the decisions are clearly very dangerous. The issue of withdrawing any support for mRNA vaccine research, which are a chance to get us new and better flu vaccines, etc. So I think this is a time where we will never forget this. It'll be before and after, much like, BCAD, in terms of what public health is about or what it can do or what it won't do and where will it go.
So I have the impression that the federal government is working against good research in medicine right now. Is that an accurate statement?
Y well, I would go one step further and say it's not only, not working against it, but it's sabotaging it every place it can. Right now, we're seeing an effort to make sure that Americans never have access to vaccines. Started out subtly at first, but now today it's not just whether or not the secretary decides you can or can't get a vaccine, but based on the payment issues for vaccines, there are now situations where pharmacies around the country can't or won't supply the vaccine because they have to do it in conjunction with what the committee that advises CDC, the ACIP, recommends. And now, as you know, all 17 members of that expert committee were fired. They were replaced with 7 people, of which 6 are clearly anti-vaccine zealots. And at this point, it's unclear who will even have access to vaccine, even if it is technically licensed and available. This is dangerous, just plain dangerous, and
And
uh,
and,
and it's
and
going to continue.
just to clarify, why is it dangerous?
It's
Why?
dangerous because of the fact that people will die who don't have to. People who want to get vaccine. I have a very dear friend, colleague here in Minneapolis, who just this past weekend, pregnant, working as an intensive care room nurse here in the Twin Cities, made an attempt to get a COVID booster, clearly something that's indicated for pregnant women where we see an increase in severe outcomes with COVID when pregnant. She could not get a vaccine anywhere. Either they were out of vaccine or they refused to vaccinate her because Mr. Kennedy had said pregnant women should not be vaccinated.
I'm going to turn it over to Maritza for a bit, but in the end, before we get done with this, in case one of us forgets, I need to have you tell us what we need to do to stop this insanity. Go ahead, Maritza.
Yeah, I think we can end with that because there's a lot to talk about, like you said, Senator. I mean, Dr. Osterholm, you said just a few weeks ago, I mean, you went on, I think I saw it on X, you said that cutting the $500 million in mRNA vaccine research, that you hadn't seen a more dangerous decision in public health. in your 50 years. But that was 3 weeks ago. And we have seen now since then, just yesterday, right? The CDC chaos and the mass exodus there. There are all kinds of other things happening. Like you said, the new suggestions for who's eligible for the COVID-19 vaccine. And RFK, Secretary Kennedy, excuse me, is saying, like, oh, well, anybody can get it. You just need to consult with your doctor. So, does your comment about cutting the research funding stand as the worst, the most dangerous decision in public health, or has it gotten worse in the last 3 weeks?
Well, imagine a tornado that was about 150 miles wide. That's what this is. It's not just cutting a path, it's destroying an entire segment of what I'd call the public health infrastructure. Let me just go back to that decision on the vaccine to give you a sense of that. Um, right now, if we were to have an influenza pandemic, which is surely possible any day, the current capacity to make influenza vaccine for the world is limited to chicken eggs and to some cell cultures. In the first year of a pandemic, we could make enough vaccine for the world to maybe, if we're lucky, vaccinate 1/4 of the world's population. Most of the world would not see vaccine for 2 or 3 years. That would be devastating in terms of the millions of lives that would be lost that could be prevented. mRNA vaccines right now, while they were previously used obviously for COVID, it's a platform. It's a way to deliver the material to your body to make you become immune to that particular virus. That opportunity with influenza would be huge. We could likely make enough influenza vaccine to vaccinate the world within a year of the beginning of the pandemic. Now, think of the difference in millions of lives lost between those two scenarios. That's just one simple outcome of shutting down all this mRNA research. Now, you take that and compound that with decision after decision after decision, which is all anti vaccine. It is all about scaring people. It's all about telling people how bad the CDC and public health are. And I think that this is just part of an ongoing and I think worsening situation with mis and disinformation about public health. And so I can only say, yeah. Do I think that was a dangerous decision? Yes. Do I think these other decisions are dangerous? Absolutely.
Did Did you see this coming? Like, did you see the gravity of this when you heard, that Secretary Kennedy was confirmed? Did you understand how far this would go?
Well, let me first set some context for this. On the night of the election, when it became clear to me that Mr. Trump was going to win, I went and pulled out the 2025 document and I looked at the parts of it about public health. And I went, oh my God, this is now going to happen. And I remember at the time of the election, we knew that Mr. Kennedy was likely to be the nominee for Health and Human Services. Didn't know he'd be confirmed, but we knew he'd be that. I wrote a piece in the New York Times, op-ed piece in November saying, do you people realize what's coming? You're going to lose your vaccines. This is going to be dangerous. And a lot of people yawned or looked at me like, oh, there he goes again, just scaring people. Okay. And I knew that it was going to be bad. So I actually, as part of our activities at CIDRAP, the Center for Infectious Disease Research and Policy, contacted a foundation here in this country, the Alumbra Foundation, Christy Walton's foundation, and said, we need to set up what I would consider to be the vaccine integrity project. We need to ensure that the vaccine enterprise is not destroyed in this country. And the first thing we did was hold 8 focus group meetings around the country with all areas of expertise related to vaccines, from research and development to the final manufacturing and marketing. And we learned what would happen if, in fact, the advisory committee immunization practices were shut down, as it eventually was, and what this would mean if the federal government did not support this. And so, based on that, we came up with 8 different areas that really needed attention. We took on one of those areas right away, and that was to do the detailed critique and evaluation of the seasonal viral vaccines, namely COVID, influenza, and RSV. And it took us, and we're still completing it, about 10 weeks to go through 17,500 abstracts of information that has been generated since the last time the ACIP looked at this. We then delivered to the Academy of Pediatrics 2 weeks ago the database for pediatrics, vaccine safety, effectiveness, etc. And it was on that they based their recommendations. Sound science. unbiased, sound science. We also delivered the information to the OBGYN group, who then at that point made recommendations for pregnant women, which again, both were against what Mr. Kennedy said they needed to be. Remember, he said that with no kind of expert input. We're finishing that right now. We're working with one other group, the Infectious Society of America, to deal with immune compromised people. We've worked in a geriatric population. And all the data we have clearly comes back and supports these vaccines are effective. They're not great vaccines. Let me be clear. They don't prevent infection necessarily. They don't necessarily prevent you from transmitting the virus, but they are really, really good at keeping you from getting seriously ill, being in the hospital and dying. And I'll take that outcome any day if I can get it for a shot. And so that's what we're up to right now. We're continuing this work. We basically look at it this way. We're nonpartisan. As I just said, I have had a role in every presidential administration dating back to Ronald Reagan. You'd hardly call me a partisan, public health person. But at the same time, we're willing to stand up. And the motto at our center right now is we will bend and we will bend, but we will not break.
Yeah, I think look, I think it's really important you're willing to stand up because I've seen, all sorts of different communities out there, from the legal community to our news community to our business community, get pressure put on them and not stand up. So I appreciate that. Let me ask you this. Is there any research being done right now with because the federal dollars have dried up? Has that pretty much ended what's going on?
Well, Senator, one of the things that makes this really challenging is one day you have your funding and the next day you don't. Oh, but then we have to restore it. One day you have your funding again. Oh, and by the way, we're going to take it away again. And some of these researchers have been through 4 and 5 of these cycles, which makes it absolutely impossible to really do and conduct active research. So this has been a real challenge. We have lost, I am convinced, many, many hundreds of millions of dollars of research that went down the drain because basically the plug was pulled right at a time when they were at a very critical stage in that research. You can't start over again. If you don't like your corn crop, doesn't mean you can replant it in the middle of July. Okay,
Right.
it ain't going to work. And that's what we're in right now. We're in a situation where a lot of the research not only has been stopped, but research that was attempted to continue just can't.
Yeah.
Well,
And so, just real quick, Marisa,
no,
really
you're
quick.
good. You're good.
Researchers are going to research, right? I mean, that's what they do. Are they looking to go to another country that has more
Oh,
predictable funding?
Absolutely. Right now, this is a time to be picking the kinds of research expertise you want to bring to your country. And I can tell you personally, I know of individuals who are already in that you might call it that transition zone. And this would be a big loss for us. But Senator, let me just give you an example of what I'm talking about with the vaccines that I just mentioned with influenza. If in fact we have this influenza pandemic anytime soon, those countries in Europe, Asia, et cetera, that continue to work on mRNA vaccines, they are going to have the vaccines at the beginning of the pandemic. And we're going to, instead of being at the front of the line, we're going to be at the back of the line. And so for everybody who talks about America first, I've never seen a better example of this is America last. Why would we put ourselves in that position when we had such really incredible credentials to be at the front of the line because of what we did? We took it out ourselves. Senator, right now, if you go and look at the White House, there's not a single person in that White House that has any experience in biopreparedness or a biologic event. If we saw a new virus or a major situation emerge in Africa right now, we'd have nobody there to deal with it. I mean, I've never seen a destruction of an infrastructure like this. And to me, that I think is what scares me, not just a decision, but it's the whole situation for making any kind of decision.
And so really quick, and then I am gonna shut up, Maurice, I promise.
You're
So,
fine.
we have really kinda said, "The hell with everybody, we're gonna be isolationists." So why should Americans really give a shit what happens in Africa?
Because tomorrow, that virus in Africa could very well be sitting in Missoula, Montana in the cafeteria at the university. And you have to understand this is about you. This is it. That's what this is all about. I've just written a new book that gets published on Tuesday, the big one. It's about all the lessons we should have learned from the pandemic. and it's actually painted with scenario for starts in chapter 1 and builds throughout the book, as does the factual information for each chapter. And very realistically, you'll see when one of these viruses takes off, and I don't care where in the world it is, within days it's around the world. So yeah, it does matter, and that's what we don't understand. Imagine right now if, from a Defense Department standpoint, the only concern we had was just directly at our borders. Didn't care what the hell happened in all the rest of the world. Okay, if they take over Canada, they take over Mexico. It doesn't matter. It's just our borders. Think how crazy we would think that is in terms of global protection. That's what we're doing to public health right now.
I'm not sure this administration would give a shit. I'm just telling you, I'm not sure they would care. But
Well,
you're
you know
exactly
what?
right.
People's lives are gonna be lost, and they will be attributed. We'll see. We'll understand this was an opportunity to have prevented this, and this is what it would have done to prevent that, and they didn't, and this is what happened. And I think that this is a time where we owe it to our kids and grandkids to keep track.
Dr. Osterholm, I mean, there's so many threads to pull on there.
Yeah.
I just remember, I mean, I talked to you during COVID-19, and I mean, that's a perfect example of it hitting United States. I think so many Americans that I knew, including myself, are like, "Well, that virus over in Asia, like, that's really bad. Wow, that's really bad." And then all of a sudden, we're shutting down, and we I don't think most of us got it, but people like you we're sounding the alarm saying that we're due for something like this and we're not ready, and then it happened. And I have heard other experts and scientists say again, like, we are due this will likely happen again and we need to be ready. And like these cuts at the federal level come after so many cuts at the state level that basically remove so much power from local health departments. So, like, where is this going? And to Senator Tester's question, like, what do we do about it to protect ourselves?
Well, let me start out with probably an inappropriate comment and say, Senator, I wish I was having you grill me while you were sitting up at the hearing desk. Okay, I would love to have this be that. Okay,
I
we missed that.
I
We missed
I
that.
I will tell you that I would have loved to too, because truth is that, and I'll just say this, and I'm not blowing smoke just because 'cause you're on our podcast. I like people who tell it like it is, and you're
Yeah,
telling us it is. Even though it
yeah,
hurt and it hurts bad, you tell
yeah,
it like it
yeah.
is.
Well, that's my life story. So anyway, so I think where are we going? No one knows. But what we have to do is stand up. What I'm worried about, and I have a number of colleagues that are brilliant scientists who have been instructed by their institutions keep their head down below the table, don't raise it above the table, don't say anything, don't get caught. Well, I got to tell you, at the University of Minnesota, we have a college president who is a former emergency room doc who is very good at making triage decisions, clear and compelling. And she spent 25 years of her research life looking at gun violence, and she knows the toughness of these issues. And I have had nothing but absolute support from the University of Minnesota at all levels. Do what we're doing. Tell the truth. I just am constantly reminded, tell the truth. Just tell the truth. Exactly what you were saying, Senator. Just tell it like it is, and be respectful, but don't leave out a word. And I think that's what we need more of right now. And I'm trying very hard to help my colleagues come along in that regard. And it's hard because they have been instructed to stay down because the art of intimidation is so powerful right now. And it doesn't come just with words, it comes with dollar signs. It comes with, do you have a job or not? And so all I can say is at some point the collective has to come together and say, we can't do this anymore. We can't take this and need to come together.
And if they don't, if in fact they do keep their head down and they are complicit with what's going on here, don't expect that you're gonna be able to do research in this country. It ain't ever gonna come back. They've gotta
I
speak up. They're the
I
experts.
I I agree with you. I am completely in agree with you. That's what I tried to say last November in my op-ed piece in the New York Times. "Wake up, world. Do you realize what's coming?" And I have to tell you, you've asked me about, did I anticipate this? Man, I'm one of these people that gets accused of sounding to make everything worse than it is. I couldn't have made it as bad as it is today. When I looked at it in November, I hadn't even envisioned that he could use the kinds of tools that he's using, Mr. Kennedy in this case, with the support of the president. And what I don't understand, I mean, this is just a practical issue. Senator, this is the kind of thing you deal with. Okay, so the Trump administration deserves the credit for Operation Warp Speed and getting us these vaccines for COVID. They saved millions of lives. Why now turn on it, these years later and make it sound as if there's something very bad about mRNA technology, when in fact that
That's
was one of the blue ribbon issues of the first Trump administration? I don't
That is what
understand
I've
that.
been saying. This was under his watch. One of our other senators, Senator Steve Daines, was part of the trials, and this was championed. I mean, I struggle with that too, Dr. Osterholm. And I remember at the time somebody so brilliantly explained it to me that mRNA is like the video game cartridge. So they can make the video game cartridge and plug it in to combat all kinds of things. And then I know I did stories about what it could do for cancer. I mean,
Oh,
is all that just over now for us here in this country?
well, I can't say it's over, but at this point, just know that no private company is going to invest heavily in mRNA technology if the US government's against it. Because, take, for example, vaccines. Even if the federal government supports vaccine research, in the end, the companies still have to put in major investments in manufacturing capacity, how they're going to distribute it. Who's going to invest in that if they don't think they have a future with that particular avenue? So, what it's going to do is going to die on the vine, at least in this country. And that's what we have to get across to people. Um, this would almost be the equivalent to me of someone saying, well, we can't use, 50 years ago, say we can't use penicillin because we don't know enough about it. Are there any reactions to it? How many lives would die because of that? So we've got a lot of work to do. And I think the senator hit on it earlier about it's time to wake up. This is real. And this is happening every day in front of us on TV. And where is the resistance? Where is it?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I don't know what the end game is. The end game is to make people sicker. Is that the end game? The end game that these guys think that this is something that causes autism and autism's going to go away. I mean, what a bunch of bullshit. This is just it is so crazy to me. And for the people in rural America, they're going to get hit harder than anybody else because of this stuff. If they're doing this stuff to research in medicine, they're doing this stuff to research in everything, including diseases in wheat and barley and corn and soy and everything else. It's just
Bird flu?
doesn't make any sense. What's that? What'd
Bird
you say?
flu too. I know that
Yeah. Yep.
they've targeted some of the
And
vaccines.
and, and one of the things that I think we're missing also is the fact that if there is any one thing that you wanna have at the time of a pandemic, you wanna have good medical care.
Yep.
And if your healthcare systems are overrun, which they were with the pandemic,
Yep.
then you don't have nearly as good a chance of surviving. Well, now what we're going to see over the next 3 years is going to be so dramatic in terms of cuts in healthcare to so many rural hospitals, to so
Yeah.
many, and
Yeah.
and so we're going to be even less prepared by a long shot than we were in 2020
Yep.
in terms of healthcare provision. It's all of these things are coming together at once. It's kind of a perfect storm.
Yeah, and it's a perfect storm that's that 150-mile wide tornado you talked about. It's a perfect storm that's gonna cause incredible havoc,
Yep.
and that's not good. That's not gonna be good for anybody, and people will lose faith in the government, and then it gives an opportunity for a dictator to come in and say, "You know what? I can do this better," even though
Yeah.
that same person is the one that caused the problems to begin with.
Keeping your grandchild from dying shouldn't be about a Republican or Democratic issue. It should be about faith in the systems that have gotten us all this good health care. And in addition, the fact of the matter is, we'll know over time. If it doesn't work, we'll find that out. But
Yep,
but at this point, why put our kids at risk? Why? And that's what we're doing.
yep.
So, doctor, we like to leave on somewhat of a hopeful note if we can. And I know I thank you for I mean, first of all, your book is coming out, so that'll be good reading for all of us. But
Yeah.
also this work that you're doing with your colleagues to try to inform these organizations about the actual research. Um, how can we help you with that? How can we help those efforts? But also,
I think
what gives you hope?
do what you're doing. And we need straight talk. Senator, this is one of the things you're known for. call a spade a spade. And that's what we need to have happen for people to realize that. And we need to realize this is about common sense. This isn't, again, I come at this as I said, I had no partisan politics in my 50-year career. So I hope my comments today are interpreted as balls and strikes, not as somehow I'm a partisan person here. And I think that that's what's really, really important is that people understand that there'll be consequences to not responding. There'll be huge consequences.
I just wanna say I've been around a lot of partisan people, and, you ain't one of them. Okay?
Thank you, sir. Can I just say part of that is 2 of our sons graduated from Missoula.
Oh my god, really?
So I have that influence, man.
From the
I've been influenced.
University of Montana.
Yeah, yeah, and I have to say also that, my favorite activity in the world is fly fishing, and where is the Mecca? Montana.
It
When are
is
you gonna come out? We need to
I
I'll
I
take
I
you
I
out.
I haven't been invited.
well,
You
you're
are
invited.
invited.
You're invited, and here's the deal, Maritza lives in Missoula. I
Uh-huh.
live in more central Montana. She's where there's trees and water and fish. It's really a horrible part of the world. I'm just flattered in hell and no trees, and
Yeah.
this is the best part of the world. So you can come see the worst and the best of Montana.
Yeah, we would
Uh,
love to have you come out. I mean, the very first time I talked to you, doctor, you told me about your friendship with my grandpa, which I didn't know about, and
yep,
so
yep.
that, I have a soft spot in my heart for you because of that.
Well, he was a wonderful man. He's the guy that could make weather jump and play a tune. He was amazing. He was the original of the factual but entertaining weather people. Everybody wanted to go listen to Barry Zavan, the weatherman, just because he was so damn good at what he did.
It was pretty funny. That's what I was telling the senator gives me crap because I have his old license plate here, and he
Oh,
thought it
yeah,
was
yeah, 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 yeah.
for a Mercedes. I said, "No, those are my grandpa's initials." Yeah.
Yeah, 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 that's it. Well,
Just
Works
Senator,
for
thank you for the opportunity to be with you today. Thank you,
and
sir.
just to recount, his name was Barry Zavan, the weatherman.
Here, yeah, look at
That's his title. There it is. There right there. See it? That's him.
Barry Savan, the weatherman.
Now I can see where you get your good looks from, Maritza. Go ahead.
You know
Let's
what? I have
go.
to tell you, he could deliver a line as well as any, Academy Award winning actor. When he did weather, he could deliver lines. He was so good at it, and they were all factual based, but you hung on
He
every
was
word.
funny.
Yeah, on a bad day, he could make you smile.
Well, thank you so much, Doctor
Thank
Osterholm.
you very much. I hope our paths cross again,
Well,
and,
come to Montana. You have my information. Give us a
Er,
call.
Doctor, I just wanna say as a Montana, but more importantly as an American, thank you for the work that you've done, your lifetime of work that you've done, and
yeah.
keep doing it, okay?
Thank you,
Just
sir.
keep
I tell you, I have that electronic, picture frame on my desk that every 20 seconds, a new shot of one of my grandkids goes by. I never have to wonder why I'm doing what I do. Never.
exactly right. Yeah, amen, brother. Amen, brother.
Thanks, everybody. Have a
Thanks,
good
Doc.
weekend. Bye-bye. Thank you.
You too. Bye-bye.
God, finally we get a nice guy from Minnesota, you know? Unbelievable. It's taken how many people, you know?
It's about time. Yeah, it's
About
about
time.
time.
It's about time. Well, I
Yes.
that was, it
Scary. I'm terrified.
scary. I hope some people watch this, that's all. I just hope some people watch this and understand that, there's a lot of bullshit being peddled out there, and that in order for this bullshit to stop, they gotta say the bullshit's gotta stop. And you know what? The medical community can't be hiding under the desk, keeping their heads down. They've gotta stand up, and they've gotta tell it like it is, otherwise it will be too late.
It's
And
been a really horrific week for Minnesota too. And the fear, the fear as parents as we send our kids to school with this week. And then I hear Dr. Michael Osterholm talk about what could be ahead. And I remember the fear of those first few weeks of the pandemic and how we just had no idea. We just
right,
had no idea how to go forward and what this meant. And I remember, at first everybody was in it together and we posted about like someday we will look back on this and remember, all the lessons we learned. And man, I have a renewed fear, and I hate that feeling.
Well, I can tell you, I know a lot of people who were anti-vaxxers that were laying on their deathbed and then wanted a vaccine, but it was too late. And and I can tell you that I remember seeing the pictures of um, refrigerated vans full of bodies outside of hospitals when the pandemic first started because they couldn't get ahead of it. And quite frankly, if we don't think history repeats itself, we're living in a different world than what has shown us to be true our entire lives. So hopefully, somebody's going to get a mindset here and understand because um, we're this are life and death issues. These are life and death issues. And I asked him the question about where the researchers were going to go, and he answered exactly as I anticipated he might, and that is they'll go to some other country. They'll develop their mRNA vaccines or any other medical research they're doing there, and then the United States will be last. We won't be first. We won't be great. We'll be poor. And this stuff's got to stop. I mean, it's just got to stop. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't pass the smell test. It has no common sense to the end of it. It's a bunch of ideologues that think they know how the damn world works and they don't have a clue. And by the way, I don't claim to know either, but I'm willing to listen to people to find out that are experts to find out how the world should work. And then you go off of that. These guys, they don't listen to anybody. Total isolationist, the hell with the rest of the world. We're going to do what we think is right, and that's going to be that. And we're going to make up bullshit about we're making the country safer and we're making the country healthier. Maha, give me a goddamn break and make America healthy again. You bet. That's what you do. That's how you do this with the Secretary of Health and Human Services swimming in a creek full of human excrement. That's shit, by the way. That's bullshit. That's just crap. And people shouldn't be buying this. We're smarter than this. God dang it. This drives me nuts. Anyway, who's on next week?
Good transition. Okay, next week we have a big show. We are going to take Monday off, I think, unless we get a really important phone call. But we have Representative Jasmine Crockett on the show next week, next Wednesday. And this
She's
is
gonna
somebody.
it's gonna be a load, man. You're gonna have to really do your homework with her. I mean,
She is so smart.
she's
She
gonna
is
be
so
tough.
no, she's gonna be great, and a lot of people have asked us to have her on, so I'm really looking forward to it. There's certainly a lot to talk about, a lot going on in her state of Texas, so we will get to it, and, hopefully by then, we will resolve some of these bigger issues. I have to believe Senator do you think Senator Bill Cassidy, the physician, do you think that he can sway some minds here?
Absolutely, he can. I hope he does. Bill Cassidy is somebody that I classify as a good personal friend of mine. I worked with him on the bipartisan infrastructure bill. He's a decent man. My guess is he's a pretty damn good doctor, and he needs to. He needs to. Now, look, I know he's up for election. I don't know how many anti-vaxxers there are in Louisiana, but damn it, you just got to do the right thing. You just got to do the right thing.
You think he
And
wants to come on our show?
I don't know. I could ask him. It's hard to get hold of my former because they're afraid we'll ask them a question and they'll make a mistake and then
Yeah.
become the primary opponent and it'll make them if they come on it'll make them look like they're a decent human being and they don't want to they want to look like decent human beings but in Trump's eyes and
Yeah.
just that this whole thing is it makes me glad I'm a Democrat. Let me put it that way, so I don't have to kowtow to anybody. Chuck Schumer used to tell me to do shit. I just tell Chuck Schumer to go to hell. I'm going to do what I want to do, and Chuck will tell you that too, by the way. But these
Well,
guys, Trump tells them to do something, they absolutely do it. They just do it because they're afraid of a primary. And if they all
you
did the right thing, by the way, they wouldn't be able. He wouldn't be able to do that to them. Okay.
you say you're a Democrat, but you're wearing a red hat today.
Oh, didn't you know? Haven't you been paying attention? The Republicans have now turned into they like Putin. They like communist governments. They're starting to take shares of companies and own it by the federal government. So now all bets are off, man. I'm telling you, the Democrats are the ones that are private sector, private business folks. They're not about the government owning businesses, for God's sakes.
So what does that mean? You're taking the red hat back? Is that what that
But
means?
yeah, I'm taking back the red hat. Yeah, yes, indeed. But this is not a Make America Great Again, man.
No, it's
If you're gonna
not.
tell me what it is, there it is. There's people watching that know what this hat is.
Crimson Tide.
You got it.
Crimson Crimson
You're gonna ask me
Tide.
why I'm wearing an Alabama hat,
Yeah,
huh?
why are you wearing an Alabama
Hey,
hat?
well, you asked me what 47 was. You can think of some reason I'd be wearing an Alabama hat.
It
So, yeah, 'cause you may not
no,
know. So, what team has been pretty damn good in football for the last 10, 15 years in college football?
a
Uh,
lot of them.
well, I'll answer your question. Alabama's been pretty damn good, okay? Now, Saban quit them, and they've kinda, backed off a little bit, but they're still gonna be pretty good, and we're on the cusp of football season. I mean,
Okay, so you're rooting for Alabama, as they go up against Florida
oh, hell
State.
no, I'm not rooting for Alabama. I'm just saying Alabama's one of those teams you like to watch because they usually get good players and fun to watch good players, and I got no connection with Alabama. I had hired a few people who went to school there in Alabama, and they were good people, but the truth is that, football season, and when it comes to college football, Alabama's one of those teams that everybody brings up, so that's
Wait, how do you have that hat then? Why do you have that hat?
I might have went to an Alabama football game, okay?
Ah,
I will say
true.
this, it was a great experience, and I had never seen the craziness except in one place, and that's at the University of Montana football. They were very similar in the insanity, I'll just tell you that. It was pretty amazing, a lot more people there, of course, at the University of Alabama games, but as far as a very fun atmosphere, man, I'll tell you what, they're both very comparable.
All right. Well, we have covered it all. Infectious disease, funding cuts, college football, 1970s TV weathermen. Man, we got it all covered on this episode.
You got it, you bet.
All right. You can
Joe
find us.
Joe Joe Devan, the weatherman,
Good, Joe. Barry.
there
Barry's a van. All right. You can find us on Substack, Blue Sky, Instagram, YouTube. You can shoot us an email at groundupcast@gmail.com. Thank you to everybody for continuously supporting us, for sharing our episodes, for sharing our clips. We really appreciate it. We couldn't do this without you. We want to thank our guest, Dr. Michael Osterholm, and our friends at Pearl Jam for letting us use their music.
Tally ho.